We're here to idea everyone, to fire up your curiosity and connect you with the people and ideas that shape our world. Watch, listen, understand, connect, create. Let's move the human story forward together.
Hello and welcome to The Poetry of Science, a podcast which provides insight into new scientific research via the medium of poetry. I'm your host, Dr. Sam Illingworth, and each week I'll be introducing you to some of the latest scientific findings and sharing a selection of science-themed poetry. After all, we could all do with a little bit more poetry in our lives. In this episode, I'll be exploring new research which has found that up to 1.5 million tonnes of carbon, soot and other particles from combustion end up in deep-sea trenches every year. Layers of ashen swill stack and stock and soil, discarded remnants, squandered thoughts, now buried deep beneath a bitter, broken sea, out of sight, out of mind, out of time. Vaults of tarnished sand to seal away our grimy guilt, absolutions assigned, a wasteful, blighted price. This poem is inspired by recent research published in JGR Biogeosciences, which has found that carbon, soot and other particles from combustion end up in deep-sea trenches. In most areas, the ocean floor lies 4 to 6 kilometres below the surface, but deep ocean trenches can extend to over 11 kilometres. The region extending from 6 to 11 kilometres is called the hadal, or hadalpelagic zone, after Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. As the name would suggest, in the past it was believed that the deep-sea trenches were deserted and devoid of life, and that they were unaffected by what happened at the surface. However, we now know that such trenches have a rich and diverse life, and that material from land and the surface finds its way all the way to their interior, including plastic and pollutants, such as black carbon. This is the sooty black material emitted from gas and diesel engines, coal-fired power plants and other sources that burn fossil fuel. It makes up a significant portion of particulate matter, or PM, and is thus a dangerous pollutant as well as a significant contributor to global warming. In this new study, researchers retrieved sediment samples from various hadal zones, i.e. those deep-sea trenches exceeding 6 kilometres in depth. By analysing these samples, the researchers found that every year somewhere between 500,000 and 1.5 million tonnes of black carbon is stored at these depths. This study therefore highlights that the hadal zone and deep-sea trenches in general are overlooked reservoirs of stored carbon. The extent to which these can counteract the rate at which carbon accumulates in the atmosphere needs to be more fully understood, alongside the cost that such storage might have on the local marine environment. Now that you've heard the science, let me read the poem to you again. Layers of ashen swill stack and stock and soil, discarded remnants, squandered thoughts, now buried deep beneath a bitter, broken sea, out of sight, out of mind, out of time. Vaults of tarnished sand to seal away our grimy guilt, absolutions assigned, a wasteful, blighted price. In this section of the podcast, I like to share a poem written by another poet on a topic related to the science that has been discussed so far. In this episode, I'll be reading Ocean of Earth by Guillaume Apollinaire, translated from French by Ron Paget. Guillaume Apollinaire was born in Rome in 1880. He purposely kept his parentage clouded in speculation, but was most likely the illegitimate child of Angelika Kostorawicki, a Polish woman, and an Italian army officer. He was raised in the French Riviera and educated in Monaco and Nice. Apollinaire was an important part of several avant-garde movements in French literature and art at the start of the 20th century. More generally, he set out to create an effect of surprise or even astonishment by means of unusual verbal associations, and because of this, he can be considered a forebear of surrealism. He died during the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 at the age of 38. Ocean of Earth by Guillaume Apollinaire, translated from French by Ron Paget. I have built a house in the middle of the ocean, its windows are the rivers flowing from my eyes. Octopi are crawling all over where the walls are. Here their triple hearts beat and their beaks peck against the window panes. House of dampness, house of burning, seasons fastness, seasons singing. The airplanes are laying eggs. Watch out for the dropping of the anchor, watch out for the shooting black ichor. It would be good if you were to come from the sky. The sky's honeysuckle is climbing, the earthly octopi are throbbing, and so very many of us have become our own gravediggers. Pale octopi of the chalky waves, oh octopi with pale beaks, around this house is the ocean that you know well and is never still. Thank you for listening to the Poetry of Science.
Thank you very much for being with us for this episode of the ideaXme show. ideaXme is a global platform. Our mission is to move the human story forward by sharing knowledge of the future. You can find us on all major audio networks at www.radioideaXme.com, on YouTube and Vimeo. Please subscribe.